Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Thursday, April 22nd, 2021, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. We have good recent results for Kansas City soccer teams to discuss with our soccer experts, Trost of SportsRadio 810 and Shaun Goodwin, who covers the sport for The Star. On Wednesday, KC NWSL picked up its first point of the season with a 1-1 draw at Chicago in the Challenge Cup. The Amy Rodriguez goal was, as Allie likes to say, a chef's kiss of a play. Sporting Kansas City opened its season last Friday with a 2-1 triumph at the New York Red Bulls, and we speak to the importance of Daniel Salloi knocking home the game winner. Home openers for both teams await, with Sporting Kansas City hosting Orlando City on Friday and KC NWSL taking on Houston in Cup play on Monday. After a break, we turn our attention to the international game and the controversy, or should I say controversy, of the European Super League. The league, which would have included such major brands as Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester United, and Real Madrid, appears to be dead on arrival. But what was it about the concept that angered fans of the sport, including Shaun, who is from Liverpool, and Allie, who grew up in St. Louis and watched Arsenal owner Stan Kroenke, who owns the Rams, move the team from St. Louis to Los Angeles. So, busy show today. Let's get started. Allie Trost and Shaun Goodwin are here, as they are every week, to talk soccer, and there is a lot to talk about today. Results and news around the globe, and I want to get into it with the KC NWSL game last night, a 1-1 draw in the Challenge Cup Series with Chicago. And what I always say about 1-1 scores is you love them when you score second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but there was a lot to like about the game on Wednesday night, Allie. I loved Amy Rodriguez's goal. I loved it for a lot of reasons, but I want you to let's just kind of get into what happened in Chicago, in chilly Chicago last night.
Yeah, that goal was absolutely fantastic. The punt from goalkeeper Abby Smith pretty much all the way up the field, and Amy Rodriguez and that's the veteran goal scoring, just natural instinct that a player like A-Rod has, right? Like she reads the moment, she picks up on a miscue defensively from Chicago and then just makes them pay for it. And then the finishing touch, that's just something that a veteran goal scorer like her, that quality, puts herself in that position, and then from start to finish is just able to give Kansas City a competitive advantage off of a really poor mistake from Chicago, a team that had been of course struggling to score so far in the Challenge Cup, but had defensively been playing pretty soundly over their first few games of the Challenge Cup. So great goal from A-Rod, but that I think as far as what to like from Kansas City in that game, they played incredibly hard and tough, especially when you look at what they were able to do in the first 45 minutes, getting absolutely, as Coach Williams said, hammered by the Chicago team. The game was played basically in Kansas City's defensive third and their half of the field the entire first 45 minutes. So the fact that they were able to keep Chicago at bay, even despite some quality chances, and Mal Pugh back on the pitch for Chicago, I think that's a positive. The second half adjustments, specifically in the midfield, that allowed them to play a bit more freely and kind of turn the tables on the Chicago team, that was a big positive. It's going to be a learning process, but to be able to make those adjustments and not let up a goal for a 45-minute stretch that was really putting the pressure on Kansas City defensively, I think is a solid. So yeah, all in all, a great point. But like Coach Williams was saying in the post-game presser last night, those 5 minutes after you score that's a very vulnerable time for a team. And so the fact that they did concede a goal within just 2 minutes, Katie Johnson, the substitution, just leveling the score there, you don't want that to happen. That'll be a learning opportunity for the team. But all in all, a good performance and a solid point heading back home now to Kansas City.
That really is a moment after you score to bear down defensively, isn't it? I mean, just to make that an absolute priority to to get tough on defense. What I loved about that goal, and I've watched on replay several times now, but A-Rod's goal, she was the only person who seized the moment, including some of her teammates. Right there, everyone is sort of waiting around to see what might happen. She had the instinct, as you said, Allie, to basically find a different gear, and she saw it, right. And that's what great athletes do. They sort of see moments and take advantage of it. There was no guarantee that was going to end up as a goal, but she pursued it. She ended up knocking down the defender and then had the great touch for the goal. That to me is the mark of a player who is at an elite level.
Well, and before Shaun, before you jump in, I just want to add too, especially as that attacking forward, that number 9, it is a balance of when to press really hard and when to really put on that pressure and when not, because you want to be able to conserve your energy at the same time. It's a delicate dance, I think, throughout a game is, when to really apply that pressure in certain situations and when to not. And I think, in that, she did see a lot of people standing around and trying to figure out what was going on, including some KC players as well. And yeah, again, that's something when you are a veteran player and someone with such quality like Amy Rodriguez with that attacking instinct, you just do it. It's so natural.
All I'm going to say is if I am that fast at 34 years old, I will be more than happy with life. Let me tell you, I'm not that fast at 24 years old. I can tell you right now, she probably springs at about, I don't know, a little bit less than the length of an indoor field, which I play every week. If I sprinted one length of an indoor field, I'd be straight to the bench. And she's doing this after 80 minutes of playing. I guess she's a professional player, but man, that was an incredible turn of speed that, we've seen it occasionally, but I don't think we've seen it like that yet in those first 2 games here in Kansas City until that moment. So, no, I mean, I was literally, again, I'm writing to file by the full-time whistle. So I see Abby Smith's got the ball, my head goes down, I'm typing, blah, blah, blah. And then I look up 10 seconds later and Amy Rodriguez is wheeling away celebrating. And I'm like, what the heck just happened? I have to wait for the replay. And I just want to commend the finish as well. She said after the game, I just passed it in. But that was a first-time finish where even if the goalkeeper and defender has a little bit of a miscommunication, even the goalkeeper still has a second or two to go, oh, wait, Rodriguez is getting to this ball. And, she can't assess her body. She was in the middle of the goal. And Amy she passed her into the bottom corner with some speed. That was a really good finish. But now I guess, before we move on, my overall view of the game was that it was a very Jekyll and Hyde performance almost. I think you can agree with that, Ali.
Yeah. The tale of two halves for sure for Kansas City.
It's a sports stereotype for sure. But no, it was a shame they gave up those last couple of minutes because, like you said, Ali, they really did bunker back for the first 45 minutes. And that was partly because of tactics. They wanted to get out, they just couldn't. You were playing 2 number 6s with Gabby Vincent and Desiree Scott, who couldn't really get forward. And then when Lola Bonte had the ball, she had no one to really, pass to or play with. And that's actually changed this game amazing in the second half. But yeah, so to hold on for 45 minutes and then as soon as you go ahead, concede, which looked like it might have been offside. I'm not seeing an angle, to be honest. The TV angles went great, but from when it did cut to Johnson having the ball, I was like, how is she 2 yards ahead of the player already? So maybe you'll have better angles with your inside knowledge, Ali. I don't know. But it was...
I couldn't tell again from the angles that we've been able to see. I'm going to try see if I can get, some better field level angles of that play. And coach wouldn't talk too much about it. He said he had people behind the screen on the presser shaking their heads like, don't get into it. But yeah, one other thing I did want to add that I thought was interesting, not that weather played a huge factor in this game because they did delay the game. It didn't end up being a snow game. However, Amy Rodriguez after the game did note that it was pretty chilly, said the field was really bouncy. And if you watched in that first half, not only was it hard for Kansas City to get out of their half of the field, they couldn't string more than like 3 passes together to save their lives. And some of those touches did look, a little bouncy. Like the touch was a little heavy. I think a lot of that first half was also trying to get acclimated with the conditions and with the surface, because it did not look very comfortable, at least 45. So again, the fact that they didn't concede a goal against, some solid attacking talent on this Chicago team was kind of surprising. And Shaun, you tweeted this and I couldn't agree more. The fact that they went ahead and had Malpew start and then sub off instead of vice versa, where, hey, capitalize on some tired Kansas City backline legs after all that pressure in the first half. They couldn't have anticipated maybe that the game would go that way, but I think that was an interesting decision on Chicago's part.
Before we move on, is it just a Chicago thing to have crappy fields? I mean, we talked about it last night. We've heard about it with the fire. Heck, at youth level. I've travelled up there for youth soccer. I'm sure you've done it, Ali.
Oh, yeah.
Even the youth fields suck. Is this just a Chicago thing?
I don't know.
Kansas City, Chicago for soccer fields is what I'm hearing here.
Well, if we fold Rockford into the Chicago suburb area, then I can attest to that as well.
I played many weekends in Rockford, Illinois. Very well acquainted with the area.
All right, so Amy Rodriguez, both goals for NWSL this year. Abby with the assist, I love that on the goal. And next up, Monday night in the Challenge Cup, I guess it's Houston, right? That comes to Kansas City, the home opener for KC NWSL. Looking forward to that. All right, let's. It's in the rearview mirror quite a ways, but Sporting Kansas City loved the effort on last Friday, the 2-1 victory at the New York Red Bulls. And listen, you guys will hammer me for this, but the Sporting's first goal was one of those punishment didn't fit the crime penalty kicks with the the handball in the in the box, and Gotti Kinga gets the penalty kick to level the game at 1, and what, a minute later, a great run, and Daniel Salloi puts it away. Shaun, tell me why Kansas City would have taken a goal from anybody at that moment. Why was it important that Daniel Salloi got the goal?
It was great to see Daniel get a goal. It's important for him as well. Before I get into the Daniel part, I do want to say, you guys might not even know this, but so Kyrie Shelton, he crossed the ball. Perfect cross, perfect passing to Daniel. He wasn't credited with the assist.
What?
Right.
I didn't know that. How could that be?
Apparently, MLS says there was a slight deflection off one of the defenders, and therefore it doesn't count as Shelton's assist.
MLS hates crediting the correct player. Like, I feel like this happens a lot with Sporting Kansas City.
That's ridiculous.
I think it was the league. Because I know this, but I didn't know. And it was when we were leaving media day yesterday, a couple of, I guess, communications guys gave an argument about it. So they asked me for my opinions, like Patrick and Kirst and whatnot. Who got the assist on that goal? I was like, Kyrie, obviously. But yeah, I know there was a slight deflection off one of the defenders, apparently, so it was taken away from him.
Wrong.
I'd say, if it's a goal, if a player takes a shot and it deflects off a defender, but if it's on target, they do say it's a goal. They just say it's the forward's goal. So why are we now doing that? If the ball was clearly on target for Salloi, why are we taking away his assist? Is my question.
Yeah,
it needs to be a judgment call, it seems to me, and I guess there's no room for judgment in this matter.
I guess not. But,
I guess it just implies then that they thought would it be because they thought the goal wouldn't have occurred if not for the deflection? So
I might drop deflectors off in New York.
I don't know. He fired that thing across. So I think deflection or not, that's getting on the foot of Daniel Salloi.
Exactly. But going back to your question, Blair, I just had to rant a little bit there. I'm going to do a lot of ranting once we get to the Super League. But I need to pull it back.
We're all looking forward to that.
Oh, I'm sure. For Daniel, the guy hasn't scored since he got one goal at the end of 2019. He didn't score in 2020, and you look at how good of a season he has in 2018. I think he has 11 goals and then a bunch of assists too. But yeah, especially for a guy who, he's still young, he's 24. He's a winger who before this weekend, he'd scored 1 goal in 2 seasons. That's not the contribution you want from a winger. And obviously he wasn't playing every game, but when he was getting his chances, he was making great movements in the pass, getting in great positions, and he just fluffed his lines. He'd whiff a shot or put it straight to the keeper. So again, this weekend was a great example of he was in a really good position. He found out where the ball was going. He's got a goal scorer's nose, is the best way I can put it. He knows where to be. It may not be the most difficult finishing out 2 yards out, but he gets the game winner. It helps his confidence in abundance. And you also have to remember that Sportsman picked up his option for 2021. He doesn't have anything set up for beyond this year. So if he wants to stay with the club, he needs a big season. Otherwise, for Daniel, it looks like he either heading elsewhere, or if he does / continues to struggle with confidence. I've been saying since last year, a guy who's struggling for confidence at his age, look at Amadou Dia, a year or 2 in the USL, get his confidence back. Player wants, obviously you want to play in the majors, but it's not the worst thing in the world. So that could be an option for Daniel if this season doesn't pan out. But like you said, Blair, scoring that first goal in the first game of the season is a huge confidence boost going forward. And I think Peter Vermees has to do not everything in his power, but do a lot to keep giving Daniel these chances to go forward and gain that confidence and get back to his 2018 form.
Yeah, well, and Shaun, Daniel talked about that in the post-game press conference too, just how great having that confidence from Vermees and the coaching staff is, because you always want that confidence from your staff. And Daniel's a player is also that really looks at himself as a goal scorer. So when that element's not there, that really just kind of dilutes your identity as a soccer player. Yeah. And not to say that he couldn't contribute in other ways and that, within the system, he couldn't do things to impact the game. But when that's how you look at yourself and you're not doing that, and especially after that 2018 season, it'll be really nice, I think, for him personally, but then for the club as well. I think his goal scoring was sorely missed in 19, and maybe not 20 as much. 20 was just a weird season where he didn't play as frequently, but 2019 was really that shock, to go from the top goal scorer with the club that season to didn't score a goal until September of that season. But I had a chance to talk with him at media day, and the pandemic might have helped him out just a bit in getting even more locked in and ready for this season. He went home to Hungary to be with family, and everything is shut down there. So he really didn't have anything else to do but focus on soccer and work out and really get ready for the season. So, that could be something that we see, just a different level of preparedness in the early stages of the season. Not to say that he hadn't, been diligent in his preparation and off-season training beforehand, but when you have nothing else to do, you probably maybe are a little bit than you would be otherwise. So looking forward to seeing, what the club has in Daniel Salloi this year, and the build-up on that goal. Kyrie Shelton, we'll credit you with the assist there, because that was just a beautiful cross, beautiful build-up play down that right side. And that was something Vermees was also happy about, because it felt like, a win for the whole staff, because that's, a play that they'd been working on and something that they had been practicing in preseason.
Mm-hmm.
I also like him because he is a homegrown player, and
I like to deal with him.
Blue Valley Northwest, right? Yep. So to get a game winner as a first goal in the opening game will have to do wonders for his confidence. All right, how about a quick preview of Friday night's home opener, Orlando City coming to town, and the big game. And there's a lot going on with this game, but maybe the headline is they're going to be fans in the stands in a way we haven't seen since 2019. Not a full house, but more than we had in 2020.
Yeah, we're now looking at 2020 was 18%. 20, or I guess this coming first game is now it's going to be 35%, which is about 6,500. I saw in a Sam Mellinger's story, he says close to 7,000. So maybe he's heard something different to me yesterday. But as far as I'm aware, it's 35%. And yeah, that's the most fans that have been in the stadium since 2020's home opener, when it was obviously a full capacity right before COVID. So no, it's great to be getting more and more people back into the game. My roommates are actually going. It's their first chance really to get back to watching. I guess apart from the Royals, but he's from St. Louis. He's a Cardinals fan, so it doesn't really fly. But get back to watching professional sports. So it's great. It's great for the players. Peter and me said yesterday that it was last year was almost artificial. For large swaths of the season, there were no fans at all. And even, obviously, players, fans, media, everyone, we enjoyed having some fans back in the stadium, but obviously the more the better. So it'll be fun to see.
Yeah, and as far as just this matchup is concerned, Oscar Pareja had, a stellar first season in MLS, and this is this Orlando team that's got a lot of high expectations riding on it. However, Sporting will likely not see a full strength Orlando team in this game. Alex Pato suffered an injury in that first game against Atlanta, that 0-0 draw late in the game. I think it was 80th minute. He went down with, I believe, a knee tweak. So not sure if there's been an update on the severity, but would be likely that he doesn't play. And then they're also missing their number 10, Mauricio Pereira, in a 2-game suspension that he's finishing out in this second game. So he will not be available as well. And then they've got the youngster, Daryl Dyke, who's still on loan. Just 20-year-old striker, absolutely fantastic. But, those are 3 players who will not be in the game, but still a talented Orlando side with a lot of threats.
How about availability for Sporting?
Yeah, I can jump in there. So it's very similar to the last game. A few players coming back. Johnny Russell, Alan Pulido, still both available. If we look at Peter and Misa's track records of just bringing back players anyway, he's always said it's a long season. We talked about this with Pulido last week about the playoff situation. I think, he got 15 minutes last game. Maybe he'll get 30 minutes this coming game. Hopefully opposite to the Mallory Pugh situation, he'll come on for the last 30 minutes instead of the first 30 minutes. I can see Johnny Russell jumping back in, to be honest. He's the captain. He was looking great when we saw him yesterday at the media availability, because we got to watch it practice. Outside of those two, Amadou Dia is back available, so maybe he'll jump in ahead of Luis Martins. I'm not sure. Martin put in a fine performance, so fair play to him against New York. Kendall McIntosh looks like he could be available. That's still not 100% certain. But even then, I think John Pulskamp, he earned his stripes in that first game, and I think it's unfair, especially for a goalkeeper. If they go out and pull up a great performance in their first game, when the only goal was a freak volley perfectly in the top corner. He couldn't really do much about it. So I think John Pulskamp should keep his spot. But it'd be great to have Kendall back on the bench. And outside of that, obviously, Graham Zusi's still recovering. Tim Melia is still out as well. That's the main issues. If I'm missing anything, Ali, tell me, but I think that's it.
No, I talked with Tim about that injury, and it's a chest injury, a muscle strain. And so at this point in the season, better to be careful with it. And Tim Melia is just one of those players, right? We talked about Pulido and Russell. Vermees's philosophy has always been to play it safe, and especially this early in the season. And if you can go out, get a lot from your depth pieces and win games with a goal from Daniel Salloi and a lucky PK, even if it is lucky from Gadi Kinda, then, might as well go on with that. And like I said, it won't be an Orlando team that's at full strength necessarily, but still a really solid team. And it's going to be a good game. I'm excited. 7,000-ish fans. Yeah. I know you said we'll see more or less, but so excited to see Children's Mercy Park. I was impressed with the noise, even just with the 2,500 fans. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like now on Friday night.
For sure.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, Shaun Goodwin is going to support the European... Oh, no, probably not. All right, we'll be right back. Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Stars award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. All right, we are back with Shaun Goodwin and Allie Trost. We're talking soccer, and it was quite a week on the international soccer stage. It made world news. The European Super League, it was kind of years in the making, and it collapsed pretty quickly this week. I'll try to explain a little bit of what it was about, but Shaun, please jump in and correct me and then you give us your thoughts. So 12 clubs, 12 of the biggest clubs, biggest brands, certainly, not only in soccer, but in international sport. We're going to form an international or a Super League, along with eventually 20 teams to essentially play their own competition. And we're talking about Liverpool, Manchester United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, the biggest names in the sport. And this was going to essentially put UEFA out of business. Early in the week, the English Premier League and the international or the national governing body of soccer in England just said no. But the biggest pushback and blowback came from the fans of these major brands. And so here we are late in the week, and it's all but dead.
The witch is dead.
All but dead. And first of all, I was just shocked that fans could have this much influence on a decision like this, because that doesn't happen in America. And then I also believed that a lot of this was driven by American businessmen who have billionaires who have assumed control of teams in England and other parts of the world, but especially England. People like John Henry with Liverpool, Malcolm Glazer with Man U, and Allie's buddy Stan Kroenke.
Best friends.
That's right.
Love them.
With Arsenal. All right, Shaun, take it away. What were your emotions like this week?
Yeah, I've luckily cooled down a little bit now. It's dead. But as soon as we start, I'll probably get riled up again. But I remember when it first came out. So I remember waking up, I think it was Saturday morning when it first got announced. Or it was Saturday when it first got announced. So I woke up, pegged nothing about it, and I saw a tweet. I was like, later this evening for England, a bunch of clubs are going to make statements about European Super League. So I was like, that's weird, because they've been talking about it for years. But I was like, they're probably just going to be talking about, we're starting to, make proposals or plan it. And all of a sudden, all these tweets start coming out, including my boyhood club where I'm from, Liverpool. Like I always said, I've got 2 Liverpool tattoos on my body. I've literally ingrained this club on my skin. Liverpool comes out and says they are a founding member of the new European Super League. Not that they're coming up with proposals, not that they're talking to the Premier League. They are a founding member. And I just remember it wasn't disappointment. It was almost betrayal, I guess, especially for Liverpool. In our anthem, our song is "You'll Never Walk Alone." It's the people's club. The fans are always a big part of it. And then for them to come out and basically be part of a plan that is antithetical to what European football is. It's the beauty of European football or soccer is the fact that it's an open system. It's a pyramid. It's equal opportunity. It's not the American model, essentially, where teams can tank, and if you have a really bad season, what do you do? We'll just go again next year. If you have a bad season, you're being relegated. If you have a good season, you're being promoted. So then for these European super clubs, quote unquote, to come out, because there's 12 of them, to basically say that we're going to create this league where the 12 of us plus 3 other founding members, and then we'll have 5 teams rotating in and out every year, can come in and, we're going to make this league and we'll be earning, it was something stupid, like over a 10-year period, each club would get 3.5 to 4 billion euros. Mm-hmm. And no matter how bad we do, we can't be relegated. Like some of the teams in there, Tottenham, Arsenal, like at least Arsenal has a history. Tottenham has won 1 trophy in the past 4 decades. They're only there because they've got some money. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to put them in the Super League. We're going to be curb stomped by Real Madrids and Inters and Man City every week. You're going to finish bottom of the table. And then be like, next right, we'll just go again next year and we'll get curb stomped again. While there's teams like Leicester, just in England, Leicester and West Ham, and you look abroad and you've got Lyon and, Ajax and Porto and these great teams who are then just looking on like they could be doing great. They're doing better than some of these super teams. And they don't have a chance. It was abhorrent to the sport as a whole. The whole purpose and the heart of the sport, it was just a complete backstab to the fans. And I was proud, especially of the English fans, of standing up and, doing what they did and basically saying, this is our game. You are not doing this to our game. And like you said, Blair, I don't want to say that American fans are less passionate. Obviously, there's lots of passionate fans of American sports, but it's a lifestyle in England. Like it is our way of life. And so to have these foreign owners come in, like you said, 3 big American owners. And of course, the head of it all was Real Madrid's president, Florentino Perez, who's an absolute danger to football. To basically say, we are going to save the sport and essentially take it away from us. It was just, it was one of the worst things I've seen in sports.
Yeah. Money and brand over fans, tradition, competition. It just was so clear what the motive was and is. And I'm so glad that it fell apart as quickly as it did, because if this, was something that was still being drawn out, I think there would be even more outcry and uproar over it. But there were some quality tweets out of this whole thing. I loved one that said, really liking this new knockout format that the Super League is introducing. And yeah, they were all knocked out there pretty quickly. But I was this close, you guys. I have a lot of Arsenal fans that are near and dear to my heart. The one thing that's always been in my way is that Stan Kroenke, formerly, St. Louis Rams, moved the team to LA. I'm a St. Louis native. Didn't think I could root for a team that he was a part of, and now I'm like I was getting close. Now I'm right back down to where I was. So sorry everyone that wants me to be an Arsenal fan. Not yet.
Well, my absolute disdain for this. So yeah, I'm in a Kansas City Liverpool supporters group, and we are arguing about this. And there was one guy who was kind of for it. He's saying, it'll be the best versus the best every year. What's going not to like? And I'm sitting here. Firstly, Liverpool right now isn't the best. We just lost. I get there's no fans, but we just lost 6 games at home, and we're in 6th place in the league. Again, behind Leicester, behind West Ham. So right off the bat, we're not. And then secondly, he was saying that it keeps us relevant. And I'm like, it's a fake relevancy. I would quite literally rather see Liverpool be relegated and be in the 2nd or 3rd division and play by the rules and then fight our way back up than be part of this fake European Super League that, it fakes relevancy. Its only purpose is to line the pockets of the owners and not give anything back to the fans. And we all know that for the fans themselves, I remember back a couple of years ago, John Henry tried to increase the price of tickets at Anfield across the board, and the fans revolted. They stopped buying tickets to games. We started protesting outside the stadium, and he brought it back down. That shows the power that the fans have. So going into the Super League, we all know that before you know it, only people who can afford tickets are executives and politicians, and people with a lot of money. You're taking it away from the working class, which it's the working class game. A team is traveling across Europe every week. You can't, you're not going to be able to have those away days like fans typically do. Before you know it, we're doing sponsored games in China and Qatar and whatnot, because that's where the markets are, and it's just ripping away everything from the fans. And yeah, I'd rather see Liverpool in the fifth tier than in this faux league.
Well, one thing that I learned in following this story this week was some of the origins of these top European football brands, and I was impressed by that. Now, you mentioned working class, Shaun, and how important the working class is to these brands that have that are now so popular that American billionaires want to invest in them. So. I also think it's a great topic to pursue on another podcast down the road. Just the clash of sport culture here between EPL and say just any American sports league, and how differently we feel about those. So, but we're gonna call it a day here. I have enjoyed our conversation. But one of the reasons we do this on Zoom and not on Zencaster is because I can see people who want to have something to add to the conversation. All right, Shaun, jump in.
This is honestly just a plug. As you were just saying, Blair, about the heritage and the origin of these teams, and like you say, it's a working class. It's a working class game. So for anyone who's interested, there is a show on Netflix called The English Game. It was released in March 2020, right when quarantine started. It's only 6 episodes. I think episodes about 45 minutes, but just 6 episodes. And it's essentially the story of, it's in like the 1850s of, back in the very early days, football, it was a higher class game. It was like Eton College versus Canterbury and stuff like that. I don't know. And then, it starts up in Scotland, actually. These working class people, they started to play, and they got just as good at the game as these higher class, upper class people. And it filtered down through England, and then it started to be teams like Blackburn and Everton and Nottingham Forest, Coventry, some of the very earliest teams. They started paying players onto the table. And it's essentially the story of how there was initial pushback from the upper class. Like, this is our game, working class. You guys are poor. Stay away from us. Basically how football and the Football Association came to be, and how it became the working class game. So would really recommend it. Again, just 6 episodes. The English Game, it's called. And it's not just about the soccer too, because definitely some side stories. So super interesting. So check it out if you're interested.
Hey, Ali, let's pick up the conversation on Saturday. What time is your show on Saturday morning on 810?
I will be on from 9 to 11 a.m. And you can also hear me on pre and post game for the Sporting Kansas City game, also on SportsRadio 810. Shaun will be joining me to maybe get a little bit even deeper into all of the Super League drama. We'll talk some Sporting, some NWSL recapping the game. So a lot to look forward to. A lot of soccer talk on 810 this weekend by yours truly.
That's great. All right. Ali Trost, Shaun Goodwin, thanks for the great conversation, and we will do it again soon. That'll do it for today. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC production staff of Derek Donovan, Beth Welsh, Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. A tip of the cap to Ali Trost of SportsRadio 810 and Shaun Goodwin, who covers soccer for the Star, for stopping by and talking soccer. Links to Shaun's stories can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, we got another deal for you. You can subscribe to Sports Pass for 99 cents a month. That's right, 99 pennies a month. Sports Pass is the online version of the Star Sports section. You get all the stories that appear in the print editions of the Star, plus many more stories that only appear on the website. After 3 months, it auto-renews at $5.99 a month, unless you cancel. It's a good deal either way. It's a great time to subscribe. The Royals, how about their win last night? Another walk-off hit for Salvador Perez. Our local colleges are always making news, and of course, it is never not Chiefs season, especially with the draft coming up next week. So How do you get it all? You go to kansascity.com/sportspass2020. That's kansascity.com/sportspass2020. You want more than just sports coverage? Check out the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional national news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details for all of these deals can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And if you're having trouble hunting down any of these offers, you send me an email, bkerkhoff@kcstar.com, and I'll get you to the right place. So whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting in supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Friday with another episode.